Yo guys, what is up? Fly here. Welcome back to the channel. Holy crap, the community. Not everyone, but a majority are freaking out about the announcement of War Thunder ships, or as they will probably say, War Thunder boats. Today, easy Baba. Today we are going to be talking about big ships in War Thunder, how they can work, how they can't work, pretty much trying to see and just take a step back and realize how battleships and big ships will work in War Thunder, and not comparing battle stations Midway and battle stations Pacific to a game that is entirely different in almost every way. Just remember, in battle stations Midway, you engage at 2 kilometers. Okay, just don't use that one. Let's just get one thing straight before we dive any deeper into this video. I'm a heavy supporter of big ships in War Thunder. I've always wanted them. I've always wanted battleships, heavy cruisers, battle cruisers, aircraft carriers in War Thunder. However, whenever I would fantasize about those things in my private times, I would always get stumped, and I would always be like, damn, that seems kind of hard in the War Thunder model. Then I would stop thinking about it because it would hurt my brain. There's a lot of variables to add big ships into War Thunder, and hopefully today, at least my whole point of this video is to talk about, do we really want big ships in War Thunder? And if so, what will we have to sacrifice to allow them to be playable in game? So we're going to be taking a lot of our discussion from Scarper's forum post that he posted on the War Thunder forums 17 hours ago. And this is a post that attempts to explain the whole situation of why big ships couldn't be added in the game. Some of it I agree with it, some of it I don't, and that's what we're going to be doing today, talking about this. So let's go ahead and get started with the mechanics. Scarper states, even small motor gunboats could have a crew of more than 30 men. And this is not a small number. With our craving for realism, large ships will not fit into the dynamics of game battles. I have no idea what that sentence means. A lot of this stuff just seems like filler, but anyways, let's continue. Even huge vessels are extremely vulnerable to aircraft, and they had very complex tactics, including reconnaissance, protection, long-range combat, and even rules to their movement do not comply. I don't even know what that means. Okay, so he brings up a good point here. I wish it was more bullety. Just that's the way my brain thinks. He said, huge vessels are extremely vulnerable to aircraft. This is very true. That is why majority of battles, I think Russia has some of the biggest ships still alive, and those are missile battleship cruisers. But battleships in the sense of the Iowa, the Yamato, however you want to call it, don't exist anymore. It's because of the TU-4. I mean, ever since it was added into War Thunder, it's just been destroying everything. So, I mean, if you look at history, ships were destroyed. No, I'm just kidding. All I'm trying to get at is that it doesn't matter how much anti-aircraft your ship has, planes will eventually break that boundary or protection area and get through to you. They eventually will. If not from dive bombers to torpedo bombers, strategic high altitude bombers will get you. I think that's how they got the Tirpitz or the Lancaster. Or maybe they did a dam buster on it, I don't know. But bombs will kill you in a battleship, and that's why they don't exist anymore. So a really good point from Scarper. And if you do not like getting bombed in tank, because guys, God, there's so many fucking variables to ships in War Thunder. If we bring it back to just a game mode, unlike wargaming, War Thunder has to focus on incorporating all 3 game types into one game. And that's why it's so challenging to add ships, because it's not just ships versus ships. It's ships versus planes, and I don't fucking know how they're gonna tie in tanks to that. But planes will be able to kill ships. And sure, that happens in World of Warships, but those are dumb planes. The player only directs them to the target, and then the planes figure out, or they drop their bombs. But the catch-22 is that in War Thunder, the individual planes will be controlled by the player. So a scenario, if a battleship is hiding behind a mountain trying to dodge shells from another battleship, a player-controlled plane is going to be able to ride the terrain, hide from the battleship, pop up at about maybe 500 meters and be able to get that torpedo off before the battleship player is even aware of what's going on. So this goes back to the original statement of, if you don't like getting bombed in Tank RB, you're really not gonna like getting bombed as a ship, because you're slower, well, to the scale, you're slower, you're bigger, you can't hide. And check this out, once a TBF pilot, realizes where you store your ammo or your magazine on your ship, he's just gonna send one torpedo there. It doesn't matter if you're a battleship or a destroyer, he's gonna send it there. Hopefully he has good enough aim, and once he hits there, that's a one-shot kill for a battleship. So just picture just how big these things are and how easy they would be able to be taken out in a game like War Thunder. Okay, next, he says capital ships move so slow that they can't dodge any hits at the distance they are fighting. So I think what he's getting at is that he's saying that in the internal testing in War Thunder, it was very hard to dodge, or you couldn't dodge any incoming shells. But I've done some research, or I haven't done research, I found research, if that makes sense. We have Dennis Hodge, who says capital ships can into turning. So these are historical pictures of Japanese warships doing some pretty extreme maneuvers. You have a Japanese aircraft carrier doing a S-turn in the water to evade B-17s. You have, look at this picture of the Yamato, or the Musashi. Look at that 180 turn, that looks pretty sharp. Now we don't know what the current was doing or any of that nature, but it seems like these warships could turn relatively well in real life. But what I think Scarper is getting at is that we are so accurate with mouse aim with the battleship in a video game that it's very easy to aim no matter what you do. And this is a solution I have right here. Solution number 1. Don't give battleship players mouse aim. Give them angles. And this idea is from Navy Field 1, laid out to us by user Harvey on the forum, but pretty much the battleship players would have to learn the angles of their guns, the velocity, the best angle for the maximum range, just for an example. But this won't only make it harder for the player to aim, because they won't just be clicking and shooting. It's going to take them longer to aim, because they kind of actually have to range find, maybe miss 1 or 2 times until they really zero it in. So it's not just so much a point and shoot deathmatch. It's more of maybe some geometry involved in getting your shells to hit the target. Now, this is just for realistic battles. I have no answer for arcade, but just for realistic battles right now, that could be a solution. However, War Thunder pointed out possible solutions other than the angles of, the guns. They said to boost their speed by 5 times so at least they can dodge or limit the shooting distance. But even if we boosted the speed 5 times, making it equal to the slowest aircraft, that won't solve the problem of shooting beyond visible range. So there are a lot of questions here. And I think the biggest thing is that to make big ships work in game, you have to increase speed and you have to decrease range. In addition, with our angle solution, so you don't give the battleship players mouse aim, I think that would work. But the next question is that what we would really want? Because I don't know, I am torn. I want big ships. I want big capital ships, big guns, boo, 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 boo. I've always, dreamed of it. It's a little extreme. I always wanted it. But if it's anything like the other game, I'm going to get really fucking bored of it really quickly. And I said last video that the only reason why I still play that game every now and then is for the destroyer combat, because that's exhilarating, that's fun, you're able to turn and do stuff, and that's what War Thunder is shooting for right now. So I don't know, man. This is complicated, but I think the solution to get big ships in the game would have to be increase in speed, decrease in range, and using our angle solution to make it harder for big ships to, be super accurate. But the question is would it really actually work, and would it still be, or would it be boring, or would it be fun? Because the whole point of War Thunder in a company is to stay a company in War Thunder. And even though a game might be fun for 2 hours, or in the initial amount, will it keep you entertained for many months or years to come? And even though driving a big ship for the first time or for the first week might be fun, will you keep doing it? That is what they're thinking about. And now we're on to the economy. Scarper says ships do take longer to sink. Even one lucky shot can take a whole ship out of action without destroying or damaging critical modules. Even with critical damage, it would take hours for a capital ship to sink. Thus, without simplifying damage models to an HP system, or there will be no gameplay at all. How can you count kills? This is a hard problem to solve because big ships take a long time to sink. If you think about it, they're like floating cities. So how do you count kills when a ship in real life were to take hours to sink? Well, you might be saying just simplify the damage models and make ships easier to get killed. Well, if you look at it like that, then it's not a battleship. You're just playing water tanks with slow-moving mega mouses that can be penned very easily. And this is why it's so hard to think about adding big ships, is because you create so many more problems by trying to fix 1 or 2 of them. But a solution that could work is that maybe there still could be critical components of the ship that could be an insta-kill, but it could be hard to get to, or it had to be damaged heavily to get to those parts. But, a ship displaces so many tons of water. And how you could count a kill is that once a ship sinks, sure, you gotta speed up the damage model a little bit, or the sinking of the ship, but once the ship doesn't displace that percent of water or that tonnage of water, the player who has made the biggest holes, dealt the biggest openings in the ship that allowed the ship to stop displacing water. Oh, it's so hard to explain. Pretty much the ship that causes the most damage and allows the most water into the enemy ship until it sinks will get the kill. Sure, you got to speed up the model, but I think that could be a solution. On the other hand, this sounds just like a sugar-coated hit point system with the amount of percent of displaced water. So maybe not the best solution, but the only one I can fucking think of right now. And now on to reason 3 from Scarper and why it will be hard to add big ships in War Thunder. Imbalance in nations. And this whole paragraph, I think, should be thrown out from the forum post, because pretty much what this is saying is that the USSR didn't have that strong of ships, like battleships. And I really can't believe this, because this is utter bullshit. I'm sorry that nation didn't have big battleships, but that shouldn't be a reason to not add big battleships into War Thunder. I mean, you can add Russian ships until, you can even add maybe some paper ships, prototypes, I don't know. But stopping a whole branch for just one nation not having the best equipment sounds kind of fishy on one level. One level indeed. Tanks. Japan. There's no Japanese tanks yet. Japanese really didn't have that good of, or the best equipment for the fight, but that didn't stop War Thunder from adding tanks. That wasn't an excuse, but because Russia or the Soviet Union didn't have good battleships, that's a reason not to add big ships at all. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds kind of fishy. I agree with War Thunder a lot about this forum post, but this paragraph, no sir, not at all. We should not, because one nation doesn't have the best equipment, doesn't mean that 4 other nations should be left without that equipment. That is one thing I will not agree with at all. The last point they make is a very, very good one. They get out saying that, well, if everyone's a battleship, then it's going to be a clumsy fleet, because the whole point of a battleship in a fleet is our support vessels, such as light cruisers, destroyers, heavy cruisers that, you know, do screening, do sonar work. I'll talk about that soon. Shh. And support the big battleships. But if everybody is a battleship, then, you know, what the heck is going to go on? You know, planes are just going to have a field day with them. They're slow. They're huge. They're not going to, well, they might miss, but it goes back to what he said. It's going to be clumsy, and I totally agree with that. So it's a premise of trying to balance and limit what kind of ships can be added, and well, they kind of already doing that with the TU4. But, you know, what are you gonna do? The Yamato has already been selected for this match. Choose a different ship. Well, you're like, oh fuck, man, I don't want to play anything but the Yamato. Like, are you gonna like just leave the battle and try to join a new one? Kind of like on that premise. So I don't know, a lot of discussions, but I do like how Scarper finished this forum post. Almost done, Piper. He says, in summary, this isn't a definite no, but an invitation to help steer the development so as many of us as possible can get enjoyment out of this unusual game mode. So what this is saying is that feedback boys. When this thing goes into closed beta tests, feedback. Now, to sum up this video and what we talked about, I just want to be clear that these solutions that we have talked about today, I don't know if they're really solutions, but they could work. Okay, so we talked about increasing speed, decreasing range, and adding the angle or the angle system to aim, so people have to use inputs from the keyboards and not mouse aim, so it's not such a quick acquisition to target and fire and all that stuff. The additional solution for the damage models and who would get the kill would be a who allowed more water into the ship before it sunk or something like that. But as stated before, that sounds like a sugar-coated health point system. So after talking to you guys today and sharing my solutions and points, right now, I will say that big ships could work in War Thunder with some changes to, well, big aspects of the game. They could work, that's the thing. But how long will they work for? Will they work for a week until you get bored of sailing a slow ship? Will they work for 2 weeks until you get tired of getting bombed by aircraft because everyone's a battleship and no one is supporting, you know? Are you tired of getting torpedoed because you're so slow it's hard to move? Those are the kind of questions, and I don't know, and that's why I'm making this video, to open a dialogue and to get the community talking so we can figure out what we want ships to be. But guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please leave your feedback in the description, oh my gosh, the comments below, and have a great day. I am streaming today. If you guys want to check out the stream, the link that will be in the description below and the comments. Peace, boys.